Welcome back to Miraculous Thinking. I'm your host, Elenique Marie, and with me, the one and the only Crystal Ann Compton. And today we are here to talk about this little gem of a book. And we are going to be exploring chapter 2, right?
Well,
Chapter
agreement
2.
2. I think it's
Agreement
chapter
2.
3. Yeah,
Chapter 3. Yes, the second agreement.
it's a little confusing.
Correct.
And then agreement 3, chapter 4.
Correct.
Okay, we'll keep it all together for you.
We'll try our best.
Are there any things that we should talk about before we get into it? Any reminders for anything?
I wanted to say thank you to all our new members of our Facebook group. Thank you so much. We are so excited to have you with us, and we just look forward to growing this community or keeping it nice and small and intimate. Either way, whatever's for the highest good. And also, we want to remind you that we have the ebook there in the files for you for your manifestation made easy, so you can start to implement some of these ideas and philosophies that we are exploring. So make sure you grab your copy.
Yes, and if you want to talk to us or send us a question, you can always do that by writing to miraculousthinking, one word, at gmail.com. We read all of the emails and we try to read the comments too on our YouTube channel. You can use the YouTube channel to drop a comment or a question. And if we see it, we will include it if it is germane, because sometimes they're just talking about how beautiful you are, Elenique, honey. Yeah, you're so pretty.
Girl, you're so pretty.
But it's true. But yeah, so if it fits into the conversation, we will definitely add it in. And we do just want to signal to you that November is coming up. It's going to be a beautiful fall month, and we are going to be reading the Kybalion Hermetic Philosophy as taught by the 3 initiates. Here's that book. It's right here, honey. I'm always thinking about it. Right here. We're going to be going into this through the month of November. So if you don't have it yet, you probably want to get it and prepare so you can follow along as we week by week go through this book, just as we are week by week going through this one. And this is good.
It is good.
Game changer.
And I wanted to say about the Kybalion, for those of you who maybe haven't bought it, or, you can get it. You can listen to it for free on YouTube. Found that the other night when I couldn't sleep. So the whole thing is read to you like a free ebook on YouTube. Just type in the Kybalion and you get the whole thing.
So. Is it a pleasing voice? Because that matters.
It's a very interesting. Okay. Yes.
I'm going to have to look that up.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. It wasn't my worst Tuesday.
I think I bought it on Audible too. So we'll have to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited about getting into that, but I'm excited about everything we're doing because, and the feedback we're getting is very positive. Yes. I think people are ready for this right now in their lives, just to take a moment at least once a week to connect with some profound spiritual teaching with other folks of like mind and go on a beautiful journey.
Yes.
It's been so wonderful and we love it.
Yep. And it's made it so much easier for me to practice because I knew, we have this commitment every week. So actually really taking the time to prioritize reading them, reading the books and practicing what the books are encouraging us to do has been really, really great. I feel like I've benefited so much from it.
Me too. And we would love to see your comments about how you are liking this podcast, or even if you have some books that you would like us to check out. We are all ears and into it. So today we have, like we said, 2 agreements that we're going to be going over, and we'll split it in 2, dealing with the first one first, second one second. But this first agreement we're going to be talking about is the second agreement in the 3rd chapter called Don't Take Anything Personally. And then right after that, we'll get into the 3rd agreement, which is Don't Make Assumptions. We can't be doing that, but we'll save that for the latter part of this podcast. Let's just get right into Don't Take Anything Personally, because I just want to start by saying that when I received this book and I read it, and it was probably in the early aughts, this is the chapter for me that really got me connected to what I was doing wrong, and how I was identifying deeply with the critiques and the criticisms of other people. And it's because I felt those within myself. I had already had an agreement or a belief system within myself that I was, I don't know, not valuable, invisible, not pretty, or whatever it was. And so, because it was already living inside of me, when somebody external critiqued me, it like struck a chord and was
Yes.
doubly traumatic. And so, before kind of going into what this agreement is all about, let's just talk about the overarching theme, which is Don Miguel Ruiz's assertion that we shouldn't take anything personally because, based on my understanding, Elenique can correct me if I'm wrong, anything anybody says about you is based on everything that exists inside of them. And so
Mhm.
I can see you, and maybe I can see all of your faults and tell you about all of these things, but it's all based on agreements and understandings that I have within myself. And so by the time that I utter words that attempt to describe you, they don't resemble you in the
Right.
least. And
Right.
really, they have no power because they are about me. The only
Mhm.
power that these words have is in you agreeing to them. So if I
Yes.
say to you, you're a failure, and you're a failure because of X, Y, and Z, and here's all the examples, I've been taking your inventory, this is why you're a failure. If you know yourself inside to not be a failure, and rather that you are successful and powerful and creative, if you believe that and have an agreement about that, nothing I say is ever going to touch you, which Don Miguel Ruiz kind of refers to this immunity that you create. And so you can be in the middle of hell, which he would say this is what 3D reality is hell.
Yeah.
But you could be in the middle of hell and absolutely feel none of it. And that's
Mhm.
the power of this agreement.
I agree. It's a powerful idea because this notion that when we interact with other people that are outside of us, we bring them within us in order to experience them. We can't experience them outside of ourselves. So we have to internalize them through our eyes into our mind, where even our mind plays, even with the image of them, has to do all these things with the eyes just to convert it into a concept, an image that we see. And that filter, the same way as the eyes are filtering that person out there inside here, they also have to make it through the filters of our distortions. So if we have met someone that reminds us of that person, let's say that I met you for the first time, and in high school there was a girl that looked just like you that was really mean to me. Used to lock me in the what do you call it, the lockers.
Mhm.
And now when I see you, I'm not really seeing you. I'm seeing the past. I'm seeing some activation of a memory. This is triggering something. And so I'm responding to you, not to you, but to the story of you or the story that you remind me of that gets triggered in my mind. So no one's ever actually responding to anybody. We're all just responding to our stories.
Mhm.
And so that's why it doesn't make sense to take it personally, right? Because if you take it personally, you are assuming that you even understand what the story is that somebody else is experiencing or telling themselves. And now you're making it about you. So I think that the only reason we do that is when the story someone's telling us hits a belief that we already hold.
Or we are impressionable. For example, we
Also,
are a child,
yes.
or we are taking that critique or those words from an authority figure that we feel they are an authority over us. Then, if we are impressionable, they do have the power to implant that agreement or that thought of self within us. And then we auto domesticate ourselves, right? We
Yes.
continue to allow that to be internalized. We continue to feed it. And now we're looking through the filter of that, and all of our actions and all of our things are seen through that perception so that we feed it and we grow it. And we're the ones who are ultimately truly injuring ourselves,
Yes.
which I think is the most powerful concept. It's really all about you, but not in a narcissistic way. But if you're creating
Exactly.
your reality within the dream of the planet, then It really is about you taking inventory and stock and all of these different beliefs of self, which he likens to the mitote, which is this grand marketplace. And let me go there because
Yes,
I
yes.
geeked out about this deeply. Where is it? Where's my paper clips, honey? Is there?
No, not the paper clips.
Oh Lord, where is it? Oh, I can say what it is that every voice in your mind, he's likening to an actual person in a marketplace, and this person, which is the voice in your mind, has thoughts and beliefs and
Mhm.
is talking. And this absolutely resonates with what I just taught actually this week in one of the programs that I'm running about the mind. The mind is ever listening and receiving, observing, critiquing, measuring based on its internal agreements, but it is always talking. And every belief of self you have, or belief of others, belief of God, every internalized trauma you are continuing to hold within you that is unhealed, it's talking like that person wandering around and bartering in the marketplace. And when you think about people who haven't done the requisite work of getting into the shadow, you're talking about thousands of people in the marketplace, each with their own diverse opinion of self and their own wants. They're running their own agendas. And the way he explains it in this chapter is that they're talking to themselves. Your mind is talking to itself, arguing with itself, petitioning for this while the other part of your mind is petitioning for the opposite. And it becomes such a clutter and a clamor that you feel in your life that you're warring against yourself, or you feel so uncentered. You feel like, what is even life? Why am I here? What is my purpose? Because all you're really taking your cues are your mind and these people in the marketplace, which I thought was so truly profound, that the mind can be divided against itself
Mhm.
until
Mhm.
we start to notice what these people in the marketplace are actually saying. It's not until we develop the faculty to pop up above the marketplace. Okay, envision maybe just a few floors up, you're looking over the hotel balcony, looking at the marketplace, and you're listening to everything that's being said. And then you can make determinations as to whether these are true or false or edifying or not. Then you can start to clean up your agreements or the voices. But most of us spend our whole life, I believe, bartering in that marketplace, kind of transferring our consciousness from one of those little people to the next,
Yes.
reactively. And this is why we feel like, again, we fall out of accord with our own true self.
Yeah, I think that's what when that analogy that we used a couple of weeks ago about the bus that I shared that I got from my friend that, you have a whole bunch of yous sitting on a bus, and all the yous were created based on a necessity. Some event that occurred that, let's say that normally you were an easygoing person, but then you got, teased a lot. And so this other aspect of you, this tough girl that protects you, was created. And so whenever anything has a signature that feels like you're under attack, the tough girl drives the bus. And she's like, everybody sit down because I'm driving this bus because this is my block and I know how to drive this road. But the thing that I thought was incredible about what he was saying about the voices were that each voice represents an agreement, and each voice is energetically alive. So
Mhm.
it's not physically a human being, but it is an energetic thought form. And it
Mhm.
wants to live like all life. Energetically, even if it's a thought form, it wants to live. And so that is why when we start to do this inner work, and start to observe. That's why it constantly distracts us. When you start with a meditation practice and you do it for 1 day or 2 day, and then it will create all kinds. Your life will suddenly fall apart, or the house starts burning down, or the kids start doing. It will create and manifest whatever it needs to keep you from doing the work of awakening, because
Mhm.
its survival depends on you staying asleep,
Wow.
right?
Every living thing wants to be alive.
Every single one.
Even your erroneous thoughts and concepts of self and your fears and your anxieties, they want to stay alive. And they will until you do whatever you need to do to diffuse them.
Mhm.
Fears, anxieties, rages, these lower vibrational moods can always be uncreated and undone by simply bringing in the truth. And every single agreement that you have ever made in your life about yourself can be uncreated. And you can remove your agreement at any time. And really, now is the time, now that you know the power of the agreements, to take stock of what you're holding within yourself and make some new agreements for yourself, which obviously he moves us along the flow of that. I wanted to read a section to you and get your opinion on it. Um, he says, don't take anything personally, because by taking things personally, you set yourself up to suffer for nothing. Humans are addicted to suffering at different levels and to different degrees, and we support each other in maintaining these addictions. Humans agree to help each other suffer. If you have the need to be abused, I found this so interesting. If you have the need to be abused, you will find it easy to be abused by others. Likewise, if you are with people who need to suffer, something in you makes you want to abuse them. It is as if they have a note on their back that says, please kick me. They are asking for justification for their suffering. Their addiction to suffering is nothing but an agreement that is reinforced every single day. And so we know you're a hypnotherapist, and we know that you deal with people who are dealing with their stuff all the time. And I do find that people become habituated to their victimhood status. And even though I would think that they think that it is suffering and difficult, is it perhaps easier for them to stay habituated in the pattern of their victimhood as opposed to liberating themselves from it? So why do you think people want to stay a victim?
Well, they become addicted to the chemistry of those thoughts.
Okay.
Because it's like an addiction to sugar. Anger is an addiction. It produces certain biochemical reactions within the body that elevate heart rate. There's this feeling of like, I'm going to go to war on this. I'm right. You get this fire in you when you can become angry. The same is true for being a victim. I remember in my life when I was in my 20s, I struggled very much with depression. And I just remember that there came a moment when I didn't want to feel better. I liked being
Mm.
sad because I knew there was nowhere left to fall. I could just depend on this sadness to be there when I woke up, and I could depend on it to be there when I went to bed. And it wasn't anything anybody could take from me because I could keep feeding my sadness as long as I wanted to. And the thought of being happy made me terrified because I knew that if I became happy, there was a possibility I could lose that happiness. But sadness was always there. Nobody can take it. So it was a very interesting and long journey out of fear. Because to be honest, what was driving the depression was the fear of losing whatever happiness I could find, not being able to hold on to it. And so I think that fear is the number one driver why we continue to obsess and do things that already proved over and over that they don't work and they don't change anything and they don't make you feel better, but you can depend on them.
Well, and then there are the folks who enjoy the attention that comes with their victimhood. And so if they
Hmm.
continue to be a victim, then people feel sorry for them, or people come in with resources, people come in with attention. And, Don Miguel Ruiz had said earlier that we're all kind of vying for the attention, in the world. That's something that we want. We want ourselves to be
Hmm.
perfect enough, to stand out enough so that people notice us and think we're perfect when we're not perfect. And so I think some people attach themselves to stories of themselves that garner them specific types of attention, which is comfortable and which is maybe even healing for a time. But there must come a time when you move from that into true empowerment. So for you in your 20s, your sadness felt like security of some
It
kind.
did.
So what did it take for you to relinquish that and take a chance on happiness?
I'll tell you, it was 2 things. One, the disaster that was showing up as my life
Mm.
and how much it was hurting everybody because, my mom was like, "I don't know what to do to help you. I don't know what to do. Like, why are you so sad? You have every reason to be happy and you don't wanna leave the house?" So that was one, just watching the collateral damage of my choice. But the second thing, one night I couldn't sleep. I was in bed. I was scared. I was scared of the dark. I was scared of everything. And I was lying in bed watching an infomercial, and the infomercial was a set of cassettes called Attacking Anxiety and Depression, like 3:30 in the morning. And they talked about a lady. I ordered it. I ordered the whole set. It was like 20 cassettes. I started listening, back in the day.
I
Cassettes,
remember, honey.
people. I'm dating myself. But I'm listening to it, and the guy says there was a woman that comes into his practice, and she has a complete and total phobia of driving. She can't even get in the car. She flips out. She just can't. But if she had her poodle with her in the passenger seat, she could drive hours. And he
Okay.
said that she had given this dog the power. She had, said, "Oh, well, if the dog is here, nothing's going to happen to me." So she had given away her power to the dog. And I realized I had given my power away to the television because I couldn't go to sleep without the light, to the light in the hall because I was scared of the dark, to to every little thing around me. I had said, "Oh, if this television's on and this light is on, then I will be safe. But also, if I keep my sadness with me, I will be safe." But I realized I was still in pain. I was doing all these things and they weren't working. I wasn't any better. So that's the day I realized I am creating stories. This whole thing that he's getting into is what became clear to me. I'm deciding what is painful and what is not painful. I am telling that story. And if I'm telling it, I can change it. And that's really when everything started to turn around. And I realized the power that we have of choice.
Hmm.
But you have to decide. And what he says over and over in this book is it takes will. This is not for the faint of heart, this choice to be free. That's why he says we have to be warriors. You can't be a victim and be a warrior. So you've got to one day wake up and decide which one do I want to be. And usually it's when things hit rock bottom.
That reminds me of a very curious time in my life. I had just had my child and I got really, really sick and I went into a coma and I came out of the coma. I had to be rehospitalized multiple times. My digestive system stopped working because I was so heavily narcotized while I was in a coma. So I couldn't poop, or like I had to go back to the hospital all the time just to help me with regular bodily functions. But the point of that is that through the chaos and the trauma, I became really afraid. I had this little baby. I don't want to die. I want to be here for my baby. How do I get out of this hospital? My hair started falling. I lost probably 2/3 of my hair because I had a blood thing going on too. It was just such a like all at once an explosion went off in my life, and I was cast into this awful state of fear. And how that manifested for me was OCD, and I had
Mm,
always had a little bit of it. And my father was a little bit of an OCD person too. Like he was always picking at like the sofas and stuff. Like he always had something that he was working or worrying. And so when I came home finally from the hospital, my OCD started ramping up really bad. And I would make lists of things that I needed to do to make sure that we could all go to bed safely. And my baby's going to be okay. Nobody's going to break in. So I'm locking windows, shutting doors. And I've got like a small list of about 5 things to do. And over time, that 5 things that I have to do turns into 10, turns into 20. And I kid you not, like I had like binder paper, like 3 pages, single spaced things I had to do. I was so exhausted of all
yeah.
the things I had to do. And I had to do them more than once. I had to check them 3, 4, 5 times. Like it was so maddening. And I remember my then husband saying, we need to do something about this, because I was delegating my list to him. Like, he had part of the
Oh.
list, and then I had my own list to how I checked his list. It
Oh
was so
my god.
crazy. It was absolutely insane. There came a night, though, I'm up, it's past midnight. I'm so tired that I just was lying in my bed, and I had the urge to go run the list. And I knew if I did it, I'd be up another 2 hours. And so I decided I'm not going to do it. I'm going to lay here and I'm going to be so uncomfortable because I'm not running my things, but I'm going to see if I can make it. I'm going
Yeah.
to see if I can make it through the night. And I just refused to indulge the urge. And in that one night, I broke my OCD. I never, ever, ever went
Wow.
back to that list. And I think it sometimes works that way for people. I think other people need different therapies in order to get over stuff like that.
Mhm.
But it does start with a choice, which is predicated upon a recognition that
Mhm.
something is out of alignment. This is no longer working, just as you said. And so I've got to do something differently. And so I'm going to
Yes.
force myself, because I have control of my body and my mind. No matter
Mhm.
what my mind is telling me to do and how much my body is itching to get out of this bed, the consciousness, I'm in control of the situation. I'm not getting up. I am not. And boom, in one night it was gone. So that's the power of
That
that
is the
inner
power.
determination and that
And the
choice.
and the self-awareness, right? That's what he's saying. You cannot change what you are not aware of. You have to be able to go on the balcony, like you said, over the marketplace and listen to the voices, observe the voices, so you can start to gauge where are you in your life. And he also mentioned something very important about the voice of God, which different cultures call gods and other cultures call whatever. We all have names for that. But at the end, it's this source that is always talking to you. And it's the voice that is giving you that courage that says, no, today we are going to stay in this bed. And today we're going to leave the house and, we're going to turn out the light because you can do this. And that voice sometimes is very, very still, but that's where the courage comes in. You have to have the courage to trust that little tiny voice that is the divine, that is God, that is grace. That's grace shining down on you in that darkness and asking you to surrender and to trust. And I think when we're in those very dark places, the most powerful thing that you have is that surrender into that grace that wants to carry you, wants to help you, but you have to let it flow. You have to let it flow and you have to be courageous.
I would say that something that we should aspire to do is spend most of our time on the balcony, right? Because
Yes.
that's that position of observer, which comes with it a vibration of neutrality and kind of flowing with what's happening and just kind of observing what all the people in the marketplace are saying, but not judging them, really just taking inventory. And this is what I want to shift around. And I'm at a higher vantage point, so I can see how the puzzle pieces need to move around. And I wonder if, when you're on the balcony, if it's easier to hear the resonant, still small voice of God and the direction of your soul, as opposed to down in the clamoring marketplace. So, how
Mhm.
does one develop the ability to pop out and stay out? Because I can do it in meditation.
Mhm.
And I've created this little ritual with myself where I employ like a quick breath. I hold it in a certain spot in my body, and that's my prompt to
Mhm.
pop on out and have a look
Mhm.
around. So, but I wonder how we develop the ability to stay there, because I think we would be so much happier if we did.
I agree. There's a gentleman called Rupert Spira that I've been following, and he's a beautiful writer, but he's also a Vedanta kind of Advedanta teacher, and he says that we don't need to encounter our godliness or our peace only on the cushion. In fact, it defies the purpose of it because someone recently told a story that this person meditated for years, 3, 4, 5 hours a day, but only there could they have peace. The minute they got up, they fought as much with their wife as they ever did and fought as much in traffic as they ever did. And then what was the point? right? Because you're not able. And what he suggests is that it's when we take the seat as consciousness and feel what you feel without judgment, being in life, but knowing that you are not that. So, like you said, full acceptance, non judgment. It's this non judgment because what happens is the voices in our head are judging us. This is what he says, right? We have this book of law that we've created with the rules of society and the rules of the dream. And we're constantly judging ourselves by those laws and everybody else. But when we can stop judging everything, even the voices, and just be like, "Oh, that was interesting. Crystal had that thought. Okay. All right. Let's see what follows it because I'm sure it's going to be the opposite." I mean, have you ever I mean, I'm sure you have. When you really sit and listen to yourself, you're like, "Who is this nut job?" Like
Mm-hmm.
it's like I want to do this, but I don't want to do that. But I like her, but then I don't like her. Like it's just all these thoughts, and they're usually talking at each other and disagreeing. So why judge them? Because you're not those thoughts. How could you be? They don't make any sense. You're the one that's noticing that the thoughts make no sense. You are that. And you are the thought because
Mm-hmm.
the thought is happening in you, consciousness. So there is no thought that isn't you, and you at the same time are no thought. So it's a beautiful idea that the universe is all one, and we're all trying to get back to something or awaken to something or do something, but you're already there. You are that consciousness experiencing something within itself, which is itself. So why fight?
Mm.
No need to be perfect. I think that's what he's saying is that we take it so seriously, right? Like we've got to get it perfect all the time. It's just a ticker tape. The I think of it like in the stock market, they used to have that. What do they call that? Ticker tape or
Mm-hmm.
something with the
Mm-hmm.
things. That's just what's happening. That's what it does.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to judge it for doing that. It's just that's what it does. But you don't have to believe it. I think that's where we
Right.
get free.
And I think it's important to recognize that every thought is representative of the person in the marketplace who has its own belief and concept of self and who is always communicating to you exactly who you feel yourself to be in some way.
Hmm.
And so, while it may be annoying and noisy and chaotic, it's actually such a huge invitation to pay attention so you can follow what the pattern is saying or what the thought is saying, follow it back to the agreement of self. That's what the
Yes.
opportunity of the marketplace is.
Hmm.
Because whatever they're saying is speaking of the agreement that you're holding inside of yourself. And it's the pathway back to that. But how do we ever follow and clear agreements if we're not listening in the first place to what's happening in the mitote? Now, I don't even know what time it is. We could be here a long time. I do have a couple
Yeah.
of other things from this chapter I wanted to run by you to kind of get
Yes.
your feeling on this.
There was something I wanted to say about what you
Yeah.
just said that is powerful, and it's language. You
Hmm.
just reframed the marketplace, that the marketplace is an opportunity. And I think that that's where we have to go in life. Take even the complicated, messy, sticky, nasty things that we normally want to hide and shun and critique and look at the opportunity.
Hmm.
Each of the voices is an invitation of where you're not vibrating as who you are. They're actually angels. He says that it's towards the end of the book that when you go into the desert, the demons are there. But when you leave the desert, you see that the demons are angels coming to free you. So the marketplace and the voices in your head are actually your angels trying to wake you up. And you just have to come at them with love as opposed to opposition. And then they can serve you instead of torture you.
I got goosebumps. I hope somebody can transcribe that. That's amazing. They're angels, yes.
Yeah.
Ever, ever serving back to you according to your own concept of self. So it's just always an invitation. It's always a map. It's always something
Always.
to follow for like a deeper treasure. Okay, so this is the next passage I wanted to share with you. If you can make this second agreement a habit, which is the agreement of don't take anything personally, you will find that nothing can put you back into hell. There is a huge amount of freedom that comes to you when you take nothing personally. You become immune to black magicians, and no spell can affect you regardless of how strong it may be. The whole world can gossip about you, and if you don't take it personally, you are immune. Someone can intentionally send emotional poison to you, and if you don't take it personally, you will not eat it. When you don't take the emotional poison, it becomes even worse in the sender, but not in you. And I don't know about you, but that kind of sounds a little psychic protection-y to me.
Mhm.
And I have had occasion, I believe, I have been psychically attacked. And so, if I may share,
Yes.
um, I had a very good friend who all of a sudden turned on me. It was all of a sudden to me because my perception of what was happening was not the same. I was not having the same experience, but she had been doing stuff behind the scenes for like a long time, gossiping about me and things like that. And it finally came out. And she then proceeded to kind of go on a campaign of hatred, really, against me, making public statements about me. And in the beginning, see, where I was vulnerable was in my love for her. And previous to this happening, I did consider her to be an authority. Like,
Mm.
I felt like, oh, she's got it all together. Spiritually, she's got it all together. She's very intelligent. So in my mind, in my spirit, I had somewhat abdicated, like
Mhm.
my own sense of self and awareness to her judgment. So when she made this judgment of me, whoa, it rocked my entire world. And then when she continued in her judgment of me for a period of time, I was pretty debilitated by it. I was so deeply hurt by it. And it caused me to question, like, is that what everybody's saying about me? How
Mhm.
many people are talking about? Like, I went into this place of deep insecurity until I got myself out of it. And I got myself out of it. And I figured out what was happening and I figured out who this person was. But over the years, I feel she sent me some bad energy. And people have told me that she has sent me some bad energy. And I wouldn't want to call her a black magician, but I would definitely call her a magician. But here's the thing: no weapons formed against me shall prosper. I believe that. When I say
Mhm.
I believe that, I mean that I believe that. And I also believe in who it is that I am. And that whole experience helped me to shore that up and galvanize that within myself. Helped me to get really clear about, no, actually, this is who I am. I'm a good person and these are my intentions. And I know this to be true about myself. And I got to a position of so fortified, just like, nobody is going to touch this. You can't do it. I know you want to do it, but nobody can touch this. And at the same time, it was so important to me to always stay in a place and space of love for this person, like truly. And I'm not just saying it, okay, God bless you, love you, bless your
Oh,
heart.
bless you.
No, like
Bless your
my
heart.
my discipline started to be around, how can I love her more? How
Mhm.
can I see her the way Christ would see her? Like, how can I feel that in an embodied way, which only further galvanizes the fortress around me, because love
Mhm.
is impenetrable. You can't take that away from me.
Absolutely.
But it's true. You can have people, and there are black magicians out there. I'm not talking about like of magical systems. I'm talking about people who intentionally want to break you down and they
Mhm.
notice and are intuiting what your vulnerabilities are. And so they're speaking out against it. They are telling you who you are. They do it on purpose because they want to hurt you
Mhm.
and they want to weave this poison into you. And you have to be aware of that.
It's very important to notice the energy of the people around you and to the best of your ability, be fair. We did this. This really changed my perception. I used to have a interior design business with my mom, and we had quite a large, we had a big staff, and I was in charge of like human resources with them. And I wanted to give, how do you call it? Like when you work and you get an extra, we say bonificación. How do you say this in English? A bonus, like a
Oh, okay.
bonus,
Okay.
right, to
Yes.
the
Mm-hmm.
people, for the best. salesperson of the month,
Yeah.
incentives. So I thought I knew who was going to win. Like, I know it's that one girl that's the best sales girl, and I just love her, and she's the best. And when I ran the numbers, and there was multiple criteria. There was how many times are they sick? Are they always on time? Customer feedback. She was like almost dead last in her results and in how other people viewed her, but not me. I had this halo effect that I had put on her, that when the moment I met her, I liked her. So I stamped her with this sticker of wonderful. And the other people that I had all these criticisms of in my mind actually were my best employees. And I was not doing anything to truly reflect that back to them, to appreciate them, because I had decided who was the good one, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody else was the problem people. And that's what I mean about our biases. For whatever reason, this girl probably resonated with some memory of somebody that I liked at some point in time in this life or some other life, but I was willing to see what I wanted to see and ignore what I didn't want to see. And I had painted the other ones with this brush. So if we're not, and we do that with our children, we
Mm-hmm.
do that with our friends, we do that with everybody. Oh, he's the good kid and that one's the naughty one. And I mean, it's sad because we are not allowed, we're not stepping into the present with the people that we love and even with the people that we don't love. We're not being in the present moment. So we are vilifying people further than they are villains.
Mm-hmm.
And we are glorifying people beyond their stature of what they truly, merit. So I think that awareness and that consciousness and that willingness to be honest with yourself is critical to understanding the energy that surrounds you, and the protection comes from you become the energy of the people that surround you. It's like an instrument. When you play a note and then there's other notes and they all kind of try to go. Now, usually in science, it will entrain upwards. It should not entrain downwards. It doesn't go down. It should come up. So if you are holding that high vibration, then people are going to entrain up into your vibration. But what happens is if you're tired, if you're sick, if something bad happens and that vibration, drops, now you are open to entrain down. And that's usually what happens is when we have that opening, we lose that steadiness and that high vibe. And that's when these things have
Mm-hmm.
an effect on us. So that's why it's so important to really watch your vibration, your health, your mindset, all of it. It's all connected, even sleep. Remember, we talked about that last week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Gosh, so many good thoughts about this. Why don't we leave this chapter
Mm-hmm.
now for the next one, but let's leave it with something that he tells us to do, which I
Yes,
think we should all do, actually.
let's do it.
He says, write this agreement on paper. And again, the agreement is don't take anything personally. And put that piece of paper on your refrigerator to remind you all the time, don't take anything personally. So I personally am going to do this. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
print it out. I'm going to put it on my refrigerator. I'm going to look at it every single day. I'm going to remind myself. And truly, there's nothing wrong with coming to the awareness that you are the final authority. You are.
Mm-hmm.
You really are. And people are going to lie to you, just like you have been lying to people because you want to project versions of yourself that you are not because you are afraid of being rejected, right? So we're lying in different ways. We have lied in different ways to people. They are lying to us. The only way to know what the truth is in the midst of the marketplace is to trust your own inner authority as you're on the balcony listening to the clamor below. So I'm going to make that. I'm going to make an affirmation of that. I'm going to put it on my refrigerator, and I suggest everybody else do that too.
I'll join you.
Okay. Let's look at it every day, Elenique.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
important.
All right. Moving on now to chapter 4, the third agreement. Don't make assumptions. Okay. So that's pretty straightforward. And this is
Mhm.
actually not a hugely long chapter, but he does have some points he wants to make. He says here, we make assumptions about what others are doing or thinking. We take it personally and then we blame them and
Mhm.
react by sending emotional poison back to them with our words.
Mhm.
That is why, whenever we make assumptions, we're asking for problems. We make an assumption, we misunderstand, we take it personally, and then we end up creating a whole big drama for nothing.
Mhm.
This reminded me, I know I'm full of stories today. I hope that's
I
okay.
love it.
This reminds me, I used to be on a worship team at a Jesus-y church, and I sang alongside this woman, and she was so pretty. And she had the most resonant, clear, beautiful voice, far more beautiful than mine, which is saying a lot. I have a pretty voice. But she sang, she was the best singer. And I like looked up to her for her gifts and her talents, but she was very anxious. And she always seemed not centered and worried about something and just, I don't know, she never seemed happy. No matter how like we tried to be happy on the worship team. And I also didn't really know her that well. She never took the time to get to know me. And anyway, I was on this worship team when my father actually passed away. And then when my father passed away, I began to initiate the process of divorce from my first husband. So I was going through all this stuff. And I was showing up every Sunday to sing about Jesus, but like I was having a vibrational hard time. And so one Sunday I showed up and she said hi, and I said hi, but I'm sure I was out of sorts. And I didn't notice, but like she looked at me worryingly, like, oh God, what's wrong? Is something wrong?
Mhm.
And I didn't talk to her about it because I was deep in my grief, and we did the whole service, we sang. And at the very end of that service, she had worked herself into such a state like she was crying. And she's like, "What have I done? I know I did something. I know that I must have what's wrong? What can I change?" Like she was creating this huge drama
Yeah.
inside
Yeah.
of herself. I felt sorry for her, like what a torturous way to live, to just
Mhm.
assume that this person that you don't really know is harboring all of these feelings, or that you somehow did something and now they're upset. Like it was this entire play, this entire drama. And I'm like, my dad died, I'm really sad. That's all. It's not you. And you could
Exactly.
just see this energy drain from
Relief,
her.
yeah.
But that's
He
mhm,
says that here. He says, we only see what we wanna see or hear what we wanna hear. We don't perceive things the way they are. We have the habit of dreaming with no basis in reality.
mhm.
I love that line. The habit of dreaming with no
Yeah.
basis in reality. We literally dream things up in our imaginations because we don't understand something. We make assumptions about the meaning. And when the truth comes out, the bubble of the dream pops and we find out it was not what we thought it was at all.
No. And the antidote to this is so simple. It is ask a question.
Isn't that beautiful?
Had she
Just
just
ask a
said,
question.
"Hey, are you okay? Is
Yeah,
anything wrong?" I would have said,
exactly.
"This is what's happening in my life. Could you pray for me?" Like we could have had a completely different experience, but she chose to make an assumption, which I think assumptions are so closely tied to expectations. They're not the same things. But if I'm assuming something about you, I'm also probably expecting you're going to do a certain thing or act a
Absolutely.
certain way. And of course, the Buddhists say that expectation is the root of all suffering. Expecting the world to be a certain way, or your parents to be a certain way, or your body to do a certain thing sets you up for failure or sets you up for disappointment when inevitably it doesn't happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know where we see that so much, like in the relationships, in our love relationships with people, because we don't fall in love most of the time with who someone is, but who we want them to be,
Mm-hmm.
who we think we can make them into.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, this guy's great, but and after I get my mitts on that, it's gonna be a gem. And you're always trying to fix people and be disappointed when they can't read your mind
Right.
about what your needs are or what your secret struggle is. And then you create a story where this person doesn't love you. They don't even know what's happening with you. And honestly, you don't really love them because you just are in love with the idea of them. So that's really dangerous because that's why I think we have so much struggle in relationships. And it's only when you can truly know your own story and your own needs, because that's something I thought about when he was saying, well, we have to ask questions. What about when you don't know the answer? Because sometimes something's wrong, but you don't know what is wrong. You
Mm-hmm.
don't. You think it might be this or it may be that, or I think I'm sad because, but you don't, it usually isn't about what you think it's about. So one of the things that I would like to, explore or talk about next time is how do we figure out how to answer a question honestly if you don't know the answer yourself? And how do you ask a question that actually gets you a real answer when the other person might also have confusion about their feelings? Or they're afraid, to be honest, because they've been taught to lie, because that's pretty much what everybody learns.
Can anybody answer truthfully? Because you're only
Exactly.
ever answering according to your existing and current concept of self and your life.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I wanted to say about all of that is that it's so interesting to me how, on a soul level, we incarnated into a dream, right? And of course, in Miracles says this, and of course,
Mm-hmm.
Maya implies this, and that the very structure of this dimension and this earth is rife with trickery, deception, illusion, and delusion. So we come here clean though, and
Mm-hmm.
we make the choice to do so. But as soon as we get here, we become influenced by the nature of the dimension, by the nature of the illusion, and soon we start to delude ourselves. And truly, we have two things we're dreaming. We're dreaming the dream of the planet with the
Yep.
planet because we're all collectively creating it, but we're also dreaming through the filters of all of our agreements. We're never seeing anything very clearly. We're not
Never.
perceiving things as they truly are because we're measuring everything against the concept of self. So you're dreaming within a dream. And so I guess is the goal to awaken within the dream, be clear so as to navigate the dream. Is that what we're all working for, Elenique? Can you tell
I
us?
think that we know that we're craving something, right? At least I know that I am craving some awakening. And yet I often struggle with the question, what is the ultimate aim? Right? Because we like to use these words like source likes to expand, and God wants to know himself. But really, what does that mean? We play with these concepts that are you can't talk. They're beyond the mind, right? They're beyond human words to describe. So for me, I think in a perfect world, I would be in this world knowing that it is an illusion, yet enjoying the game of it without attachment, eating the best Italian food that I can find,
Mm-hmm.
good wine and great books and good company and doing good and feeling love for people and knowing that none of it's real anyway, but still just enjoying it. To me, that would be freedom.
Hmm. Okay, I can accept that. That sounds that sounds good. I mean, and I do think that as a soul, we came here knowing that we would be particularly susceptible to falling into deeper and deeper layers of illusion. And I think so many of us are so turned around in the fog of
Oh,
this
yeah.
reality and have no idea what's coming or going. We make all sorts of assumptions because we don't have the courage to ask questions.
Hmm.
And you see this play out in some marriage relationships, and he even references some marriage relationships in this chapter where the wife is expecting the husband to just know what she needs or know what she wants to happen on the anniversary. She's hoping he's going to come with a beautiful gift. They're going to have a beautiful moment. And of course, he forgets. He goes to the Safeway. He buys her flowers in a goose. Sorry. My first husband did that. It was my
Oh, no.
birthday.
I
It
was
was
like, I don't
back.
remember the Safeway and the goose
back.
story.
It was back when I was a kid. We were married, and
Uh,
birthdays were a big deal. And I was just expecting that he would know that he would have to turn it out for my birthday. And he had forgotten. And on his way home from driving truck, he stopped at the Safeway and he got this bouquet of daisies in this really ugly ceramic goose vase. And he brought it home. And And I was so unhappy. But I was
Oh,
expecting him to know what my
yes.
expectations were. And I was also testing him a little bit. Like, do you really love me?
Mhm.
You know, is he going to show me that he loves me? And then I'm talking to my friend on the phone, and we're talking about whether he's going to get me the kind of gift that I deserve. And she's participating in my suffering.
Yep, yep,
She's
yep.
helping me to suffer. And then he comes home with the goose, and everything falls apart. But what if I had just asked a question? Do you really love me? Do you still love
Yeah,
me?
yes.
Do you want to be married to me? Are you having fun? Like, if I
Do
had
you
asked,
do you like geese? Like
because
like
I
what?
don't.
Do you wanna start collecting cheap ceramics? I
Are
don't
you
know what's
trying to
happening.
tell me something?
Yeah. It's
But
hard,
like,
and, we don't wanna know
yeah,
the answer to certain things, I
right.
think, because when you have the answer, you have to take action, and I think that's the scariest part, I remember my mom told me the story when I was a little kid, I thought it was so disturbing. This woman knew that her husband was having an affair, but she did not let on that this was, like, someone she knew, and the woman, she found out, she was like but only with her intimate friends, she was like, "Yes, I know." So, everybody's like, "Are you gonna confront him? Are you gonna make a fuss? Are you gonna make a" She's like, "No, I am going to wait it out, and I'm going to be on my best behavior so that he is able to truly eventually notice that this is not in any way a competition for me, and he will return without knowing that I am the wiser for it." Now, this is a very interesting position. One I could not relate to,
Right.
but I found it interesting. Then I think someone asked her, "But why?" And she said, "Because I love him and I'm not going to leave him. So if I tell him that I know, now he will look down on me if I stay. So in this way, we get to pretend like everything's copacetic and I'm the wonderful wife and I have this perfect marriage." But she didn't want to know the answer because the answer would have forced her to take an action that she was unwilling to take.
Mm.
Isn't that interesting?
Mm-hmm.
What you will put up with when
Yes.
you don't want to know the answer.
Yes. Which harkens back to Ruiz saying, you will only accept a level of disrespect proportionate to how much you disrespect yourself. But the
Correct.
moment somebody disrespects you a little more than you disrespect yourself, well, game over, we're done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's such a vulnerable place to be, to ask, do you love me? Are
Yeah.
we okay? Like, because what if they say no? And then we have the truth, and now we have to deal in truth. And I don't necessarily want to have to make new decisions. And so I don't ever ask the question. I just
Right.
continue to create dramas inside of myself and blame you for them. And then you get mad at me, and
Exactly.
here we go in perpetuity,
In
just being
perpetuity.
insane.
And the other part is, what if I ask you and you say what I want to hear, but I can feel that you're lying?
Mm.
Now we have that extra elephant in the room. When
Yeah.
the energy and everything else doesn't match. So now you've got the double anger, the anger that you had the balls to ask, and
Right.
then the anger that they would not just tell you the truth, even
Well,
though you can feel it.
he even says you are lying to yourself if you're not
Exactly.
trusting what they're showing you versus what they're telling you, because they're
Exactly.
lying to you. People
Exactly.
often will lie to you, but you will know them by their fruit, which to
Mhm.
me is you'll know them by their energy. And we're all
That's
made
it.
of energy, my friend. And I can feel your energy. If I like get quiet and I tap into you, I can feel your energy and I can know the quality of it. And so I am lying to myself if I'm not trusting that and instead trusting some words that somebody's saying that could be
Absolutely. And
lies.
that's like not listening to your inner self, right? When I
Hmm.
when I listen to your words and I let it override my intuition and your behavior, that means I'm completely losing trust with myself and giving away my power. And so you're at the end of the day, sadly but true, we are to blame for all the instances in which we do that.
Yes, we are. It always comes back to us, doesn't it?
Yep.
Well, these were some powerful chapters, and I can see how I need to read this like over like a few times a year. It's such a small book.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're not done with it, but it's just so many good. I mean, I've got so many paper clips. I was telling
Yeah.
Elenique I don't have any
Paper
Post-its. So
clips.
I've got these rusty paper clips and I'm just
I'll
clipping every
send you
single page.
some.
Thank you. But I mean, like, it's so every single page, there's a mic drop kind of a moment.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
again, we love Don Miguel Ruiz for writing so simply in a way that we can all understand, but with such easy confidence and authority so that we can also trust. Yeah, it awakens inside of you. Oh, yeah, that's right. I know
Yeah,
that. I've always known that. But
exactly.
thank you for reminding me.
Yes. Thank you, Don Miguel Ruiz.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you.
Gratitude.
He really does. And he just looks like the nicest man in the world,
He
doesn't he?
does. Yes.
I just wanna be like, "I wanna meet him. I wanna have coffee with him." And I
Yeah, he
just want
seems
him.
so fascinating.
Yes. Yes. So this is our official invitation, Don Miguel Ruiz. If you're watching
Oh
this
my gosh.
podcast,
Just all
come hang
fangirl.
out with us. Come have coffee. We love you.
I would love that. Well,
Yes.
this has been so much fun. Do
As
we have
usual,
anything that we definitely want to ask you to like, comment, subscribe? If you're
please.
following us via podcast form, please leave us a good review. It really does help us to
It
grow, and we
does.
appreciate it. Is there anything else we need to say, Helenique?
Just that on week 4, we're gonna have an amazing meditation with some of these concepts that will let us really and truly think if you can walk that meditation, use that meditation, we'll be able to take these ideas and drop them in there to the subconscious where they'll become easier to utilize. So I'm excited. I've been working on it, been working hard on it. So I'm excited about it.
It's going to be awesome. I love your meditations. And again, we're doing the Kybalion. I don't know how to pronounce that if I'm saying it
Me neither.
incorrectly. Kybalion, month of November. If you don't have the book, go out and get it now. And if you want to write to us, it's miraculousthinking@gmail.com. And on that note, have a beautiful rest of your day, everybody. Bye.